the form of the lease as referenced in the resolution between the City of Tulsa and Tulsa Public Facilities Authority in the following ways. Amending Section 1.2. 1.2 shall be amended to include reference to the seller note as defined in the resolution, and to amend Section 4.3. Which would state, and this is an added provision, notwithstanding anything to the contrary contained herein, and as a condition precedent to the payment of rent herein, lessor shall provide prior to or simultaneously to the execution of the lease either a written agreement limiting third-party lease exposure for the facility in a form satisfactory to the lessee, specifically both the mayor and the Tulsa City Council, or a reserve fund with the lessor containing capital assets with a value in excess of $12 million.
Second.
Mr. Chairman.
Councilor Eagleton.
Friendly amendment on your proposed amendment to the ordinance on the last paragraph between the provision about the contract and the essentially the trust, deleting the word or and adding the word and. So I have the option of rejecting or accepting your friendly amendment? Yes. I will accept your friendly amendment for a vote. Thank you.
Wait, I have a question. For a vote on Councilor Eagleton's suggested amendment?
Yeah. Accepted it. If you accept the friendly amendment, then it becomes part of your motion. If you do not wish it to become part of your motion, then you reject the friendly amendment. Councilor Eagleton will make the motion to amend your motion, and if he receives a second, then it will go to a vote.
Okay. I will reject. I'd make that as a motion then.
A second?
Actually, I've got a question on this.
Listen.
Drew, you've been involved in the wordsmithing on this. What's the implication of the belt and suspenders?
Some of the thought that went behind the difference between separating them out as either an either-or clause versus an and clause is that if you had the and clause in there, it would essentially, I don't want to say hamstring, but it would place additional burdens on the administration.
That was somewhat of a loaded question I asked you, and the reason why I wanted a little clarification was just to see if I remembered it correctly, and the reason for the or had to do with the timetable on this. We've got a real narrow window within which to get this done, and if we did the and, it might preclude the
there was discussion it would hamstring the administration in closing the contractual deal in time. So if that was the thought behind it. And if with the either or in lieu of the contractual obligation, they could just have the $12 million in capital assets set aside in a reserve fund. And it would reduce that time pressure, you're right.
Councilor Christensen?
My question is, how will the City Council be involved in this? What process will we go through to make sure that we are involved and are involved in the decision with the mayor on the master lease term as an example?
On the first portion of that, in which we're talking about the master lease documents, in Councilor Carter's motion, he is stating that it is dependent upon approval by the City of Tulsa, including the mayor and the City Council. I've spoken to the bond counsel for Tulsa Public Facilities Authority, and he stated that unless both parties, well, specifically if the City Council did not approve of whatever the third-party contract was, that he would not issue an opinion in support of the bonds. And it would make it very difficult, in his opinion, to obtain the bond financing without the city council's approval of that debt instrument.
So then this will come back to us in the form of a vote?
On that option.
Yes.
May I? Under the amendment as proposed, as originally proposed, it would be either the master lease agreement or capital assets in the form of that amounted to $12 million, either or. If the assets were placed in a fund that equated to $12 million, then the master lease doesn't necessarily have to come before us until one is negotiated. By placing the "and" provision in, it would require the negotiation of a master lease first and $12 million in reserve, in capital assets.
I'm not a lawyer. Everybody knows I'm not a lawyer, but my concern is the term of the master lease. I mean, if we enter into a year master lease, what happens after a year if the guy isn't successful and then leaves us holding the bag, so to speak?
Just a minute. Mayor?
Thank you, Councilor Turner. Councilor Christensen, two things. One is we would welcome your continued participation from tonight forward in negotiating the terms of that master lease. But certainly the discussions have been that master lease agreement would be for at least the term of the debt that covered the building.
And the term of the debt's going to be?
Correct. No. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Well, then Don, then you need to come up here for the 10-year. I'm sorry, the 10-year analysis that Councilor Martinson put forward, which is where the delta was. Yeah.
Come on.
I think the complication, we did talk about an "and" as opposed to an "or." There's two complications. One, I think, has been addressed, is the timing to get property transferred over to TPFA. We have to close on this building. The out date of the close is September the 10th. And so the concern is that would have a gun to our head and might drive us to do a transaction on the remaining piece, which would be, if it's not completed, on the backstop with the lease that isn't financially responsible. So giving us the chance to substitute one or the other gives us, number one, leverage to negotiate with a third party that we currently, that you wouldn't have if they don't believe you have another option, and you'll take that away from us, and that's going to end up costing the taxpayers money. Okay?
So at the end of the day, we may not...
You'll have one or the other.
We'll have one or the other, so we may not have a master lease.
I can tell you we have an agreement in principle with a very responsible party for a master lease, but it's not a done deal till it's done. It is our absolute plan is to go with a master lease. But if for some reason through negotiation it turns out that you're better waiting to October 1st to save the citizens money rather than have a gun to your head, we can go ahead and use the backstop at the transfer of the property and then replace it with a master lease, which would be at your approval. But you'd know under any circumstances you'd have a minimum of $12 million, which is the delta between the stallback numbers and the numbers that were presented today by Councilor Martinson.
And where's the $12 million coming from?
Well, it'll either be in the form of a backstop, which is the lease, or it'll be a third-party lease who the quid pro quo will be is they get the upside and protect us on the downside, and that amount will that'll get you your $12 million that way. Or if we go to the value of the properties, then what we would do is we take 23rd and Jackson, and we would take the City Hall property and any other properties that we're vacating, and we would title them over to TPFA, and we're very confident that amount would be well in excess of any $12 million number that you would need.
And when do you anticipate that happening?
Well, we would move, depending on how the negotiations, if you approve this, we'll enter in negotiations next week on the third-party lease. to try and get you that protection. If that's going well and we can close, we'll go ahead. That's our preferred way, and we'll come back to you. You'll review it, and we're good to go. If it looks like that's going to be problematic, we'll have this other transfer of property as a stopgap, and Mike Kyer will be working with legal to get that teed up so that if we need that as a preventive measure.
Yeah. I hate to ask questions, and it sounds stupid, but when will the $12 million transfer of property occur?
It will occur prior to the time that we close on this transaction.
And where's that?
If we haven't negotiated the backstop.
Where's that $12 million coming from?
The appraised value of the city properties. It's not cash. It's assets. If you read,
we're pledging assets.
If you read the amendment, it does. And then we can monetize those assets by either eventually selling them or going to a bank.
I understand.
Funding City Hall.
I understand.
It's a backstop.
I understand that, Don. Okay. Thank you very much. But I just thought that the master lease was going to be part of our vote. That we would have a master lease. Rick, is that what you understood?
I understood Councilor Carter's amendment to be either or. Either the master lease or the $12 million in trust. The property worth $12 million in trust.
Okay. But it's still a city asset. It's still taxpayers' assets that we're pledging. I'd rather have a master lease because then we're limiting the risk that you and I have been concerned about.
Absolutely.
I'd rather have both.
Councilman Mortensen? Yeah, well, that is certainly the goal, but like Mr. Himmelfarb said, using or not only alleviates the time pressure, but it also gives us negotiating leverage that we wouldn't have otherwise. If you put and in there, you lose your mechanical advantage on the deal. Okay. The second thing is by transferring title to the property over there, keep in mind that as we start selling these properties and recognizing proceeds on those, the city council will have the ability to direct those funds. And my hope would be that the council, I know we have a lot to do, but my hope would be that we would make sure that we establish sufficient funds so that we don't run into an operating deficit situation down the road. And I don't know if that, and oh, by the way, one other thing I wanted to mention on that is the financial pressure doesn't really hit for the first year or two. It comes down the road. So I think we do have an opportunity here to negotiate a longer term on this master lease agreement. And as far as I'm concerned, that is the goal, without a doubt. Councilor Eagleton?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I agree the objective is to protect the taxpayers. You mentioned it's a belt and suspenders approach. When I'm dealing with somebody else's tax money, I think that's a very appropriate way. Yes, I realize having an and inserted will require both propositions to be met before this goes out to bond. If this deal is as good a deal as we're being told it is, if this deal is as slick and as money-saving as we're being told it is, it shouldn't be a problem to find a master lease to hold it, and holding the city properties in trust to guarantee payment so future taxpayers don't get sacked with the outlying years strikes me as very prudent and should be supported by everyone in this council.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman. But does that mean you're changing your indicated vote to an affirmative vote, or are you still going to vote against the...
I've got a motion proposal for an and. Yeah, I want to see how that comes out.
Councilor Christensen.
In my mind, the master lease is really important to this deal because that protects the unknown variable of tenant occupancy in our building, which directly affects the amount of money we've got to have to pay the debt service. So if we could work something out with the master lease being a requirement. I mean, is the master lease, is it just not able to be gotten, Mayor? I mean, is it?
No, I mean, we believe that we can obtain it. Okay. But as Mr. Himmelfarb said, to give us that deadline really puts us in a position of really being financially inflexible and not having the leverage to negotiate. If you go and negotiate with someone and say, this is the only option that I have.
To negotiate the master lease?
Correct. That's everyone's goal, everyone's priority, and I think it is the wisdom that the council brought to this transaction is that we need a master lease agreement. We should not be in the leasing agreement. We all agree with that and are confident we can get that done. In order really to give you all the comfort that if it is not done by that time, we have a backstop until we get it in place. But I will give you my personal word that that's our goal. I'm confident it can be done, and we will work to make that our priority. And we would love to have you. I know you have other business obligations, as you all do, and I appreciate what you've done to move this forward. But we would welcome you at the table every step of the way to have your input on that master lease agreement.
Thank you, Mayor.
Mr. Chairman, can we call the question?
You had a second. Dana?
So the question is, do we make it or and?
No, yes. The motion is to insert an and that would be the vote, and then we'd vote on Councilor Carter's amendment to the resolution.
Okay. Dana?
Just to insert the and.
Call the roll, please.
Turner?
Yes.
Barnes? Now this is to add the and to it, which protects us more.
Well, depending upon your perspective.
What did you say, Bill?
Depending upon your perspective on the deal.
Okay, well then I'm going to say no. Martinson?
No.
Troyer?
No.
Eagleton?
Yes.
Christensen?
Yes.
Carter?
No.
Henderson? Westcott?
No.
Motion passed.
Everybody all right?
It passed.
Motion fails.
It passed?
Motion fails.
Motion failed. Okay, we got a second on Councilor Carter's motion?
Yes. I think we had a second. You second?
Dana, call Councilor Carter's motion.
And for clarification, we're voting on the resolution with the amendment?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
The resolution to proceed with the bond issuance subject to the amendment proposed.
Thank you.
Call roll, please.
Turner?
Yes.
Barnes? Yes. Martinson?
Yes.
Troyer?
Yes.
Eagleton?
No.
Christensen?
Yes.
Carter?
Yes.
Henderson? Westcott?
Yes.
Emergency clause? Turner?
Yes.
Barnes? Yes. Martinson?
Yes.
Troyer?
Yes.
Eagleton?
No.
Christensen?
Yes.
Carter?
Yes.
Henderson?
Yes.
Westcott?
Yes.
Number 8 is a resolution creating a committee. Please let us continue business.
Thank you.
8C is a resolution creating a committee to review alternate methods to reduce third-party leasing